Hey there. Welcome to another Tesla Motors Club podcast. My name is Lewis.
I'm Doug.
And I'm Mike.
On today's episode, we'll talk about the new V4 Superchargers. Tesla is now offering PPF wraps. There's some interesting pricing stuff going on with Model 3 and Model Y leases, and Tesla officially launches an API. All that and more, episode 52 starts now. Hello, gentlemen. How are we today?
Hello.
It's a good day.
It's a good day.
Yep,
It's,
80 and sunny.
There's
Excellent.
a solar eclipse yesterday, and but it was
Yes,
Yes.
rainy and overcast. You should have been almost in the line of totality.
It was very good here where I'm at.
I got 73%, and I watched all of it.
So in Austin, did you have a full?
It was not a total, but it was
Uh-huh.
it was really good. It was, I don't remember what the percentage was, but it was a high percentage. They did like NASA had a live feed from Albuquerque, and then also
Oh, nice.
in West Texas they had some feeds. Next year, or the next one, I will have next year I will have a full eclipse here in Austin. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It was just rainy and overcast here, so I didn't get to check it out. So
yeah, I have a cool graph on my Tesla solar power or my solar panels
there's a
for
little-
Oh,
yesterday.
look at the
Little
power
notch.
generation.
Yeah, if you look, this is going to be a terrible image, but there's a huge
Oh,
dip,
Interesting.
and
Yeah,
that
look at
dip
that.
is that's the eclipse
All right.
because there were no clouds in the sky.
It's interesting that you can basically extrapolate what the envelope would have been.
Right.
But you see this notch taken out.
Yep.
Uh,
But yeah, so it was pretty cool. It was exciting to see that as a space nerd. But yeah, lots of speaking of, there's lots of exciting things. I have to say, we haven't talked about this yet, but I want to give a little preview for our viewers to know about what's coming up. Our next Tesla Motor Club podcast, the very next one, TMC podcast, will likely feature Dan O'Dowd. So the CEO of, I think it's Green Hills Software or something like that. Famous critic of Elon, who's taken out all the anti-FSD ads and been on the news a lot. He will be on the show to talk to us. So
This will be fun.
if you have any questions or thoughts or things you'd like us to ask him or points to bring up, feel free to post them on TMC on the threads. And anyway, we'll see you on the next show.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, I just say that he or his team or whatever reached out to us. I mean, we didn't go seeking him
Correct.
out. So, take that, take that as you will. And we'll see what he has to say. But certainly he has his own point of view, and we'll try to try to give him a fair shake. But also we'll try to be balanced about it.
Indeed.
So
That'll be fun and exciting. So any other new things with you guys before we jump into these topics? I think, Doug, you mentioned something cool about a marketplace item.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal, but we do have a marketplace on TMC now, and I recently bought this little item, and I don't know if you can really.
Can you
tell,
change your camera? So
what the heck
yeah,
is this?
There it is.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck is this thing? So what it is, I don't know if you guys have like a Model 3. At least the early Model 3s have essentially a design flaw where the air conditioning starts to stink like pretty bad, pretty easily. Like leaf debris and stuff gets down there, and so yeah, pretty much every year you have to change your filters, and then you pull your filters out, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt because you kind of have to like get underneath the passenger side dash to get to it, and you pull the filters out, and then it suggests you use this condenser cleaner fluid. Most people use this stuff called Cool It, which is it sort of foams up, and it has some sort of some sort of chemicals that probably enzymes that break down organic material that might be stuck in there. And that part is always a pain in the butt because it foams and it just sort of goes everywhere, and you're just sort of trying to get it on the fins of this metal grid, but it just goes everywhere. It's sort of hard to direct it. And some guy, I can't remember the guy's name, but it's on the marketplace, made a little device that's basically 3D printed, and it has a bunch of little output points here and one input spot that basically you take the coolant and you stick it in here, and it sort of makes the foam go where you want. It's basically the size of the filter, and you just stick it in, and so it goes right where you want it instead of just going everywhere. So I've yet to actually try it, but it seems to me like a great idea, and something you 3D print. And I don't know how much it costs him in filament, but he's charging $20 for it or whatever, and seems worth it to me. So I'll give it a try and let
Nice.
you guys know how it works
That
out.
was on the TMC Marketplace on the site.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
I think he just sells it on his Etsy or whatever, but that's where I found it.
Gotcha.
On the marketplace. So
Sweet.
should be cool.
I have not experienced having to clean those filters, but I've heard horror stories of people trying to.
Well, yeah, the Model S has a different. It's different,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
under the hood and.
The 3 is very different.
Yeah.
And it's just I think it's essentially a design flaw where people are like, "What's that funky smell?" And there are a lot of sort of temporary fixes where you turn the
Oh, it's
heat
me.
on. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
not you this time, not this time.
Oh,
though.
not this time.
so one of the problems on the 3, I don't know about the S, but on the 3, you've got 2 filters stacked on top of one another, and people tend to have the AC on all the time.
Sure.
But there's a drain tube that leads to the bottom of the car, and that drain tube will clog. So now you get this condensation pooling in the bottom of the
that makes
I don't know,
sense.
what would you call it, the container?
Yeah, and it will clog because it's easy for leaves and
Debris.
to get down there. And I've tried some other things. There's some other sort of third-party device you can get, like where you can. The inlet is just under the hood, and there are like some fins that are pretty big. There's a filter you can buy to put there, and I've tried it. I don't recommend it because that filter will get wet, and then basically the air intake isn't really working well. And I had tried it, and you can just sort of tell like whatever that motor is like trying really hard to suck through like a wet filter. And I pulled out that filter, all of a sudden all this air is coming. Like, oh
yeah,
okay, that was a problem.
Gotcha.
There's another thing I got that's sort of, and you can find these things on Amazon. There's like a little plastic grid that you can put on there, and that lets most of the air through, but then stops like the big leaves and stuff. So
stops birds, rocks, pebbles.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if the newer. I haven't seen under the hood of the newer 3s. I was hoping they did something to fix that. They did do a software thing I had heard about some years ago where they keep the fan running.
And I would suggest to anybody who is a do-it-yourselfer and wanting to do this or just change out the filters, on the 3, there is a tiny screw at the top of the cover that you have to remove to get the filters out. And it's a bit of a pain. You have to be somewhat of a contortionist, lay on your back and bend yourself in an odd angle.
Too.
It is. It's not even a plain Phillips. But there's another gentleman that 3D prints these little orange covers that you put the screw back in, and now he's got a high-powered magnet on this cover, and it's now held in place by a magnet. So it makes the whole effort a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
It's still a pain, but not as much of a pain.
I saw that. That's a pretty good idea. So just the cover is magnetic. What I ended up doing instead was another guy.
Duct tape?
Another guy on eBay for like $2 or $3 sells a 3D printed screw, but it's a thumb screw. And so
nice.
Instead of using that torque screw, it's just got a big
little fly head on it or something.
Nice knurled nut kind of head on it that you can just. And to me, that made a little more sense. It's much cheaper, and it's using more of the original parts. And it's just, you just have this little thumb screw.
I like the screaming orange cover.
That makes it easy to find.
It does.
Time you have to do it because
It does.
Kind of,
it's a little dark under there.
It's a little dark in there, and I always have to sort of recalibrate where it is. So anyway, it's something. Yeah, it's something you don't want to be paying Tesla to do for you. It's easy enough.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because here's my PSA for the day.
Uh-oh.
So if you order your filters from Tesla, and I should say if you order your filter from Tesla, it's $17. What they don't tell you in the catalog, you need
Buy
2 of
two.
them.
Buy two.
I know a lot of people that have ordered their filters through the Tesla, accessory catalog, and they get one and they realize they need 2. Oops.
Yeah. Again, all these things are you can get that like some reasonable filters on Amazon.
I buy it off Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cheap and easy.
So the only reason I'd get them from Tesla is if you have some, maybe you can use the referral credits for those or something, and then
For your factory tour.
they took that away. That's not on there right
Oh,
now. Did we shame them? Did they take
maybe.
that?
I think we did. We
I
did.
think we did.
I doubt it. They don't listen to us.
They don't pay attention to us, but we did shame them. They just didn't receive any shame from us doing it.
Right,
So,
right. Just
okay.
ricocheted off
yeah.
Teflon suit.
Oh man, so that was honestly, that was a fun geek out session on doing some maintenance on your Model 3. Wasn't even part of the planned content.
This is what we do.
This is what we do. We're just doing it live.
Problem with this show. That's why I take it.
Yeah, we just go off on things. So V4 Superchargers. Tell me about these. What do we got going on? I'm obviously the Supercharger.
Hallelujah starts.
Yeah, so I'm the Supercharger virgin. I've never used the Supercharger. I know the V3 Superchargers where we started first seeing that magic dock. What's special about these V4 Superchargers, Mike?
Longer
What do we got?
cord. They have a longer
cord. Okay.
It still has the magic dock.
Okay.
But it has a significantly longer cord to it, so you can pull in and you can actually have the cord reach your car without having to drive over the Supercharger or park behind it or take up double spots or whatever we've seen the pictures of people doing with their non-Tesla.
So this is primarily targeting the non-Tesla crowd that are going to be able to use.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's aimed square for that crowd. It's also got the terminal. You can see on the picture that we have on the screen, it has a pay terminal now, which quite frankly, I've got mixed feelings about. I mean, I understand why they did it, but I just think it's a failure point that's going to be a problem.
Well, we'll see. So yeah, I think that one of the main things is that the experience with the Magic Dock is supposed to be better, and then also it has this looks like a tap to pay kind of terminal, and it's to me it's in a kind of an odd spot. I mean, what we're seeing in the pictures are sort of yet to be installed units.
Right.
But it looks like that
looks like it's in the arch,
Yeah, it's well, so the version 4 are kind of look like what they call the urban superchargers, as opposed to the cable sort of being inside of a mostly empty thing.
Like a U.
It's around on the outside, but still the terminal and the little screen for it is underneath where the plug goes, so you kind of have to unlock it before you use it.
Yeah, maybe. Hard to say. I have to say where they've got the adapter snugged up there at the top is kind of clean. It's not open to the elements. It's not hanging out in space.
Yeah, I mean that's what they were.
It's totally enclosed.
That's what they had, with the version 3 also. But I'm interested in what is the what's the process, because you would think if I'm coming up to use this thing, now as a Tesla user, we just unplug it and plug it in, right? But if you're trying to make sure that you have your payment right, like is it going to it shouldn't unlock the Magic Dock until you've set up your payment, right? You would think. But you got to get past the cable.
I've seen it work both ways. In the CCS world, I've seen it work both ways, where you have to pay first, then it unlocks. And like EA says, plug in first, then pay. Mm-hmm. So,
Well, I'm just wondering how it knows to release the Magic Dock then. The charge point model is you tap and then and this is just for level 2, that you tap and then it releases the J plug for you to then plug in.
So, it's interesting. The version 3 superchargers supposedly max at 250 kilowatts, but they're saying these new V4s will go up officially to 350 kilowatts. But the rumor is they can go actually higher, about 600 kilowatts, if they actually choose to use it. Which makes it interesting for some of the bigger vehicles like the Rivians, for example, or the Porsches.
Makes sense to like future proof it that way, at least, right?
But
Yeah.
I can't imagine they're changing the voltage though. I mean, I was under the impression that some of the other EVs use a higher voltage to shorten up the timing for the charge.
Well, I mean, as long as it communicates, I'm sure they can ramp the voltage. It's just that the current vehicles don't, the current Teslas don't support it. But
Yeah, well, my
you know,
Model 3 piddles longer than 150 kilowatts. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll really come down to what are the insulation capabilities of the conductors that they're using, right? That's really gonna boil down to what their limits
and
will be.
I'm sure they're already rated for
Yeah.
that. You normally have a bit of an overhead anyway, and
Right.
you know,
Yeah, you normally only rate 80%, but even that they probably support higher.
I am waiting on pins and needles to see our first V4 supercharger around here
V4.
that I can actually go and try and touch and feel.
I mean,
Well, when you do, you'll have to give us an update.
I will be
voltage
happy to do that.
isolation is at least that we're not talking even kilovolts, right? Voltage isolation at this stage is, I mean, that's easier than accounting for current, right?
Correct.
So just more physical spacing or more higher dielectric,
Or
Yep.
both.
insulator or whatever, as opposed to, okay, we need more metal. we need thicker wires that cost significantly more money.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I'm actually planning on trying a supercharger in a few weeks' time.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
So my I have some relatives going to be coming to visit over the next few weeks, and basically my mother's coming for a trip and my father's coming for a trip separately. We won't get into that. But the
sounds more peaceful that way.
But my father wants to. He loves Buc-ee's that Doug got to experience on his road trip out here. He likes going there because they have all the beef jerky and all the snacks and things. And so I was talking with my wife.
In charge.
Yeah, I was exactly. I was talking with my wife like, I should probably try a supercharger while I'm there, since it'll be an excuse to be at one before I ever do a road trip, because I'll likely at some point do a road trip. So I'm just going to give it a shot. I'm going to try it when I'm there. So in a couple weeks, I
want to see your Plaid parked at an EA station, hooked up to Chatamo.
Okay, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Buc-ee's was interesting, but I wouldn't make a special trip for Buc-ee's.
I mean, my father's not from the U.S., so he, when he sees these like outlandish, all the Texas stuff in it, and whatever,
right.
he kind of
everything's bigger in Texas.
It's a ridiculous, ordeal for him. So he'll probably buy some Texas memorabilia to bring to relatives in Italy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But anyway, so I will be doing a supercharger soon, but it'll only be a V3, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, the main thing about supercharging for me now is it's not cheap. Like most of my charges, I'll see it's like 42 cents a kilowatt hour, and I'm like, that's kind of pricey compared to just charging at home. And I guess that's how the incentive structure should be, that you don't necessarily do it unless you have to. So I'll be interested. It's literally nothing. You back in and you plug in, so it's not it won't be a life-changing thing, except that it's just that it's just easy enough that you don't really have to think about it.
So funny you should mention how easy that is. I had an incident where, so let's set the stage. On my phone, I've got my Apple Card, set up, and I use that as my default payment for supercharging. And I was on a road trip, and I'd gotten a erroneous billing on my Apple Card, and so I called Apple because I'm sitting at the supercharger with nothing to do. And Apple says, "Oh, we're going to cancel your number and give you a new number." I'm going, but I'm using it. Too late, canceled. And immediately Tesla starts whining that there's no payment method and they're going to cut me off. So I'm literally sitting there, trying to re-enable a payment method at the supercharger with Apple on the phone and Tesla, app binging me about no payment method. Just one of life's little challenges. In
But you
first
got
world.
charged. You got your charge.
I did get my charge. I did
Okay.
get my charge.
Okay, this turned out better than I thought. I was afraid this was going to be another story about how you sat on the phone for 8 hours to get
No,
$2 back or
no,
something.
no. Well, being the Boy Scout, I pulled out my solar panel and put it on top of the car. Right? Yeah.
I don't think you can classify that as supercharging anymore. I think that's that's a
it's
triple
charging.
charge.
It's
Yeah.
charging.
Supercharging.
But just be aware that the app is very picky about what you give a payment method as for Supercharging. They don't waste time, man. If they realize that payment method's gone and can't be used, they will cut you off.
Makes sense. They don't want
Wow.
you stealing power. Oh, so this is a terrible segue. I don't have a good segue for this. So this is my segue.
All right.
So
segue away.
Tesla. Speaking of Tesla offering things
There you
and
go.
charging you, so Tesla is now offering PPF wraps, which
They are.
surprised a lot of people, myself included. PPF is correct me if I'm wrong, Greg. It's paint protected
Protection film.
Paint
Yep.
protection film, yeah.
Paint protection
Basically.
film. All right.
Thick
I only know
plastic.
that because I was going to do it on my car. I ended up not doing it, but I was going to. But yeah, it's kind of, to be honest, if Tesla had offered it when I bought my car, I probably would have done it. I probably
Even
would have
at
said,
the
yeah.
price.
What's that?
Even at the
I mean,
price.
that price is basically the price everyone would want to charge me anyway. I can.
So
I mean-
so for our listeners and viewers, Tesla's price for a clear is like 5,000. If you want a color, now of an entire color wheel of colors, they picked 7 of the most muted colors they could, and they want $7,500 to $8,000 to wrap your car.
And I will point out that that's basically what I was being given as off, prices when I tried to get my plaid done at at a good body shop that's
And
gonna
this is
do it inside into the wells and like
right. They do the door jambs, they do everything like they should, and it is
Yeah.
the thicker paint protection film. It's not the thin vinyl wrap that we know, love,
Right.
and hate.
And one of our producers is pointing out it is a better deal than FSD.
Absolutely, you actually get something.
Because it is a physical thing. It is both cheaper and real.
So let me pull this up on the Tesla shop site.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that they would offer this.
They're
As-
prepping us for the Cybertruck since nobody wants stainless steel.
right. I mean, as
100%.
as listeners know that I have a color change wrap on my car.
Have
I
you
also
seen his
have-
purple Model 3?
But yours is vinyl though, right? It's the
It's
thinner.
vinyl, but then I have a clear PPF on
Okay.
top, not the whole car, but on the the areas that
The
matter.
high impact areas.
But so the colors that they have available are pretty. I mean, it's a pretty small
They're
selection here,
Pretty blah.
and they're mostly pretty muted colors of colors they already have. Like I guess the green and the rose gold are a little bit special. There's a glacier blue that harkens back to a color that they used to have on the Roadster when Lotus was doing the paint colors for them. And Lotus offered, they had plenty of colors, like maybe at least 10 different colors.
I wish they had that. What was it the S had in the beginning? Titanium? What?
Oh, yeah.
That road
kind of
was
a
looking like
brown
pinkish
silver.
titanium.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I remember that.
here's a little color swatch thing I have from 3M.
Yeah.
For the,
Of all the colors they
look at
could have
all
gone
these
with.
different colors available. I mean, there's so many, and that's why I think many people might choose a wrap. I mean, you can really individualize, personalize your vehicle, and this isn't quite for me. This is like, why would they have such a small selection? Now, it is true, as you mentioned, this wrap seems to be a proper sort of like a polyurethane
full body
sort of
wrap.
thing. That, well, not just that, but it's thicker. Like PPF is thicker than your standard vinyl wrap.
True,
It's
true.
really sort of protecting you from paint chips and stuff like that. And it tends to be like a 10-year product. I don't know what their product is, but the 3M Clear equivalent is a 10-year product.
They're
say
saying
5 to 10.
Yeah, 5 to 10. And I would suspect if you put a ceramic coat on it of quality, it would easily hit that mark.
So anyway, I think it's interesting that Tesla is offering this or would offer this. Now, so far, it's only two service centers that are offering it, and
Both here in
I kind of
California.
question it. Are the service centers themselves actually going to do it? Or are they going to
No, I bet they've
have
outsourced it to a local vendor.
yeah, a local shop somewhere? So what's interesting to me is that this is basically just money on the table, right? That Tesla can just get, right? Because so many people, I just know through TMC and different vendors we have that
A lot of people
advertise
wrap.
on our site. A lot of people wrap, and the actual material is a relatively low cost. I mean, it'll cost hundreds of dollars or something. But that you're paying for the skill of the person putting it on there and their time. But to me, I mean, from the outside, but with a little bit of insight of seeing it done and some association, it seems to me like a pretty high margin um, thing to
Yeah,
do. Pretty high
It
margin
is.
process.
I would add though, for anybody considering this, if you plan to buy your car and then trade it in 2 or 3 years, even as a Tesla wrap, a lot of dealers won't take it wrapped because they don't know what condition the car is underneath the wrap. Um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can take photos and stuff, but yeah, you don't know. Most wrap shops, when you do it, they'll do a full inspection because they don't want to get blamed
sure.
once the wrap comes off. Or like you find something wrong and you can't come back and blame them, you know.
Yeah, the whole car is primer underneath the wrap.
So you do a full walk around and inspection. Now, I don't know how this will work with Tesla. I mean, there's some convenience factor here. A lot of people, when they get their car new, they want that PPF on as soon as possible so they don't get rock chips and that sort of thing. And if it's delivered to the service center, and if eventually they can get that integrated, that it, gets the wrap on before it comes home, that's kind of convenient. Though, um, it's still, you want to be able to inspect the car on delivery because, I mean, my car had little paint inclusions and other things and swirl marks and all these other issues that I didn't think to get fixed then, and I was like, okay, well, we'll just cover it up. Of course, when I got my wrap, I had already had the car for a couple of years. Um, but you'll want to be able to inspect the car, make sure the panel alignment and all that stuff. You would hope that the service centers would step up and take care of that sort of final inspection type stuff a bit more, kind of like your standard dealer would, rather than the customer being responsible for that. And because then again you're then hiding it under the wrap, so you probably want to get a good look at your car before that wrap goes on. But it is convenient if they can do it at the service center before you take it home, so it has less exposure to
Oh,
Yeah,
residual.
that's
I
why I
would,
would have done it. If it was an
Yeah.
option, I would have done it. I
I
planned
would,
on doing it afterwards, and then I ended up not bothering. And at this point, I've had the car over a year, so I really don't see the point. If I
yeah.
if I really cared what the paint quality was, like eight
Oh,
years from now,
I've
I'll
considered
just
it.
get it painted.
I've considered a wrap to change the color because after 4 years or 5 years of blue, I'm kind of thinking about a different color.
Mm.
And I can go buy a new car, or I could paint this one, or I can get it wrapped. And I'm thinking a wrap's probably the more cost efficient way to go. But I'll say that my poking around, one of the things I found out, especially on Tesla, is to do the wrap the correct way. I won't say the right way, but the correct way is a challenge because the bumpers front and rear have to come off, the doors have to come off, the door handles have to come
The
off, the
mirrors have to
side
come
cameras
off.
have to come off, the mirrors have to I mean, your car gets disassembled a lot if it's done the correct way. And a lot of shops don't do that. And I'm a little concerned that Tesla
I,
farming this out may not
I
do it quite that way.
I think most quality shops will do the proper disassembly. I mean, that's what they do. Um, when my car was done, they took off the front and rear bumpers. They took off they didn't have to take off the doors, but I don't think even they had to take out the handles, but they did have to disassemble the mirrors. Um, because I also had a chrome delete sort of thing done. Um, but what's interesting about what Tesla's doing, they are also it looks like they're wrapping the door jambs and And normally when you get a wrap, that isn't done because that is a huge extra expense
Oh yeah,
to
a
get
lot of
in all
time
those
goes into that.
contours there.
A lot of handwork.
So yeah, and often it's pretty obvious because say, most people know they're getting a wrap, get whatever the keep color is. So there are a lot of white Teslas out there with wraps. And when you open the door, you
You
see that
got white door jab.
that white thing. Now for me, I kind of like, not really like that. I mean, there was kind of in the planning. My car is that nice dark blue, and this wrap I have is this, chameleon sort of color change wrap. And I feel like that blue is contained within the multicolors that the wrap can do. So it doesn't strike you at all when you lift the trunk hood
Right.
lift the trunk or open the front or open the door. You don't really notice. In
It's
fact, right
still blue.
now,
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned some weeks ago I got someone back to my car. Actually, I guess it was months ago now, but I'm only only now getting it properly fixed. And when they removed the wrap from the door, they noticed that okay, there's some dents, so I had to get the dents repaired. So right now I'm driving around with the car, and most of the car is purple, but the driver's side door is just the original color, and it doesn't really stick out that much for me. Um,
So let me ask you this, Doug.
mhm.
We have a F-150 not too far from the house here that was wrapped,
Uh-huh.
and it was wrapped in a matte black. But what I've noticed is along the edges, like on the hood line and along the door edges, it's like the wrap shrank back a little bit. And it's kind of lifting.
Yeah,
Is that a common
yeah,
issue
that
with
can
the
happen.
thin wraps?
That can happen. Basically when they do the wrap, um, I mean, after they get it on, like maybe like the next year, sometimes some maintenance needs to be done. There are sometimes there are little adhesives they use to tack around the edges to do it right. You don't just put it on; it has to wrap around the body
Right.
panel. And sometimes they will come back and put a little tab of some sort of adhesive that will
Just
help
kind
keep
of
it
hold it
down.
snug around the corner.
They also need to trim it too. So they'll wrap it, and like say if you do a hood, for example, it's wrapping around, and but then yeah, the edges will lift up, but typically you're supposed to just trim those off. So it probably just needs
Little TLC.
some maintenance. But I mean, you'll notice that like if you don't have a PPF, like that wrap, like it kind of protects your paint a little bit, but the wrap itself can be fairly fairly fragile in that like rock chips will remove bits of your wrap and you'll see your original
Oh,
color sort of underneath.
ouch.
And so that's something you'll notice like on mirrors and on the nose. That's why it's kind of nice to get a actual PPF on top of the wrap, but it does add to the cost.
Yeah.
Um,
So I've heard the phrase with the PPF self-healing. And
mhm.
I've seen the demos where, they take like a wire brush and then they take a heat gun and the PPF just magically just smooths right out again.
Yeah, so
Uh,
that's a nice feature, and your normal vinyl wrap won't do that. And in fact, you can get scratches on the vinyl, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. I mean, you can put wax and stuff like that on it, but like a car that's paint, you can actually polish paint. Just depending how thick
sure.
your paint is. There's nothing to polish on a vinyl wrap, so all you can do is sort of
No
yeah,
color sanding and blending,
no,
huh?
no. So I'm kind of curious about this product. I mean, if it's not just clear and it's colored, I wonder how much it will actually stand up to things like scratches, and how much is it, does it do this, self-healing or whatever? Um,
So
Given that they have
currently
some
they're only
color adhesive.
offering this on threes and Ys, right?
That's all they say.
And only
Three
the
Okay.
Y, and
newest.
they only have a few
Only the
places.
newest.
Okay.
Yeah. Those of
Yeah,
us with the
so
older ones are SOL.
Okay.
it feels like a little bit of an experiment, and yeah, I'm sure that they're now. I mean, they're already doing this, or already were set up to do this in China, right? Where they probably
Right.
wanted more colors, and also with the Cybertruck, which is stainless steel, which you can't really paint very well. A wrap makes sense if you want some uniqueness in your Cybertruck. And they've had a bunch of sort of you know uh, Cybertrucks that are driving around with various wraps on them.
Yeah, what's another
Um,
$8,000 on your Cybertruck? You're only paying 37 for it, right?
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I'm curious how much of that skill will actually be in house. They're selling more cars, they're opening more service centers, but this is another thing that the service center has to do.
It's also
Right.
very time consuming.
Yeah. So how much time is that adding? But if Tesla can get reasonable margins on it, again, it's pretty much money on the table because so many people get these done in every state, in every city. There's somebody wrapping their Tesla, mainly because they only offer 5 colors, 2 of which, 3 out of the 5 colors aren't real colors. They have like 2 colors. Everything else is a grayscale, right? So it's a popular thing. So Tesla offering it, that probably scares some of but probably the demand is high enough that existing detail shops probably aren't that worried. Because often, especially in the Bay Area, you want to get your car wrapped, you're waiting months.
Yeah, I was going to say down here it's like a 2-month wait.
You're waiting months, and so that's why if they can do it at the service center without you driving around, if they'll slot you in or schedule you, with your delivery, then that's probably worth the extra money for those people that want that. So
Sure.
it's just I wish they had some more
More
variety.
colors.
Come on, why not? And
got
I'm
a
also
whole
curious
color book.
I'm curious who made this, right? I mean, there are a couple manufacturers, 3M obviously. There's Expel, which some other sort of companies. So I'm sort of curious who's making this product. I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't like a 3M product, because
Right.
So, but they're not.
It's gonna
they're
be
not
one of
saying-
those.
They'll probably, Tesla always wants to act like they're perfectly vertically integrated. So it's
It'll
only a few
be-
colors because they have it made on some laser 3D
Right.
printer or something.
I just had visions of like this, the Tesla logo hologrammed all over your car and embedded in the wrap. Yeah.
I mean, it can be done. It can be done.
All it takes is money.
Of the wraps available from 3M, there's one that basically adds like a kind of a rainbow effect. It's clear, but it basically has essentially like a bit of a diffraction pattern in the clear wrap, so that when you're driving by, it gets kind of rainbow reflections and stuff. Nothing.
I was thinking more of a way to mask your car from the speed radars, the ones using lasers. Yeah.
The ones
Doug's
using
actually thinking
lasers-
about it.
The ones using lasers typically reflect off your license plate, because your license plate has these little sort of spherical reflector things.
They do.
In the paint. So that's what they tend to focus on. And in California, at least, it's illegal to have something on top of your license plate, probably for that reason. So
Well,
your
it's
wrap
illegal not to have a front plate, which a lot of folks seem to ignore.
Yeah,
You know
Although
what?
they're
You know
getting
what?
ticketed now for that. They are getting ticketed.
I don't want to hear it. I enjoy not having my front plate. The way I look at it is Texas is a state all about individual freedom. And so
why do you have any plates at all then?
I have any plates at all? No, so I removed my front plate, and I haven't been stopped at all. So thankfully,
Well-
and if they give me a ticket, I'll gladly pay the ticket. It's fine.
I got a ticket once for the front plate, and it's not. No one's pulling you. They might add it if they're already pulling you over, but no one's pulling you over for that. It's the meter maids that are enforcing.
I
that.
got pulled over for it once with my wife's car, but it was because we had the plate in the front windshield because it had fallen off the front bumper, and I didn't reattach it yet, so I just put
Yeah.
it in the windshield.
So you-
And they whined
Huge
about that?
mistake. They
Really?
pulled me over and said it's illegal to have it in the windshield, and that
Well,
it
they-
needs to be on the bumper.
Well, they probably
And-
don't want it flying around in the cockpit in case.
Yeah,
of
so
an
they gave me a
accident.
warning. And what I did is I went home and I just took it out of the car entirely and never put it back on. Never been pulled over since. So
Oh, is it a safety issue? So if you're like in the Plaid and you do a launch, is it a decapitation?
Right,
risk?
the
Oh, yeah.
front plate
In
goes
the
sliding
Plaid-
off the dashboard.
in the Plaid, it would be dangerous. I would not do it there. This was in my wife's Jeep. But absolutely not. Wouldn't do it in the Plaid. It's a good way to die. So in the comments, Mike says it's not required in Pennsylvania. Yes, and I used to live in Pennsylvania. That's where I went to college, and I loved my car not having a front license plate. and I hated it. I moved to New York, and I had to add one.
Yep.
And I added one of those little ones that like attaches into the tow hitch that I could remove really easily. And then when I moved to Texas, I was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing it anymore. But yes, I did enjoy that in PA.
So here in California in particular, they're getting really sticky about it. They just announced and signed for a brand new camera system that they're testing for school zones and hospital zones and a few other places. And they rely on those plates to be able to take the picture of the plate and then send you your ticket in the mail. So no front plate right now in Los Angeles County, Ventura County, parts of Orange County are almost an immediate ticket from the meter maids. I mean, you're just sitting, you're not even in your car. You'll find a ticket on your car with no front plate. And it's not just a fix-it ticket. You actually have to get the plate put on and pay the fine and make sure it gets signed off. It's kind of a big.
Well, I mean, that's the definition of a fix-it ticket.
That's kind of a fix-it ticket, but
yeah, is that you? And in fact, that's what I had to do. I got the mount thing, and this was California.
I've got the quick mount on the front of the car.
You have to go to a police department, and they'll come out and they'll sign off on it, and you pay your $50 for the fix-it ticket. So you have to
and then you immediately remove it in front of them
it's
and
like
then drive off.
It's like $150 ticket now. It's not $50.
Yeah,
they're trying to strongly discourage you from taking your plate off.
Well, I mean, it could be like in New York where people like on purpose scratch up their plate and obfuscate it so that they don't get tolls and
right. So the plate's there. Oh, gee, I'm sorry, it's all scratched up. Yeah.
There's a problem in Texas where people were making the temp plates, the paper. They were like printing out fake paper plates. And using those, and it was like a huge ordeal. Or like you see it a lot online on Reddit, people posting videos of people breaking the law, and they have some nonsense fake license plate that's not real. But
well, in California, as we're talking about places, one last thing.
There we go.
When I got the i3, like when you get a new car, now there's a paper temporary plate in California.
Yeah.
But there used to be nothing. So
that's true.
It was
just a little something in the front windshield.
Yeah, a little sticker in the front. And so for, I don't know, a couple of years, I didn't even bother putting the plate on. Because, why worry about it? Why risk the red light cameras that are illegal that you might get caught by? I mean, I don't run red lights, but sometimes you just get one. But I think I finally put it on when I needed to get in I needed to use like the EV lane or something.
No,
like, okay, let me.
That's the famous Steve Jobs thing, right?
Oh yeah,
he didn't like license plates on his car, so he set up a deal where he got a new car every 6 months. Every 6 months he got a new one, so he didn't have to do it. Yeah. Anyway, that's ridiculous.
So question for you, Lewis. Here in Southern California, in particular. No, it's not. Should I say riddle me this so you can take
riddle
a
me
shot?
this? All right, take a shot. All right.
Okay, now we got that out of the way.
All right.
Here in Southern California, I'm assuming elsewhere, but I see it a lot lately. Wrapping your plate has become a real thing, where people will get the plate wrapped with vinyl. Maybe the color of the car on the plate with white letters, or it's not left.
I think it's illegal in a lot.
Oh, it's very illegal. It's very illegal.
Definitely illegal in California.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas, there's a lot of plates they have like over 100 plates that you can choose from. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if people wrap them. I haven't paid attention to notice, but yeah, I don't know.
That seems like it's something that you'd catch pretty easily, and
being easy to pull over.
Yeah.
Of course, you can always get your digital plate for $1,000.
Oh man, I can't wait till we have those. We don't have those yet. We have commercial vehicles here can do digital, but residential can't.
Yeah, we can do it here. $1,000 if you want the digital plate.
Give you why?
You can have your very own saying along the bottom of the plate.
The why is because I can plug my laptop into it and then I can make it do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Okay, but besides hacking it, what advantage does it have for the normal person? Like
no advantage.
No advantage for the normal person.
You have little stickers that you put on.
It's a flex.
I don't need to put the sticker on.
It's a flex.
Yeah. There's no advantage for a normal person.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anyway, so I think before we move on to our next topic, we had somebody ask a question about our last topic. Let's see.
the
I'm
Gen
gonna say
3 and Gen 4.
Caesar. It
Yeah.
might be Cesar, but I'm Italian, so to me, I go to Caesar. So I apologize.
There's no A.
What are the advantages of V4 over V3? Again, assuming superchargers. Um, and I think what we talked about is it's for a Tesla owner,
Yeah.
there's not much of an advantage, but for a non-Tesla owner, it's basically longer cord so they can plug in from more angles and a better magic dock, easier to use
There's
magic
more
dock.
power. So even
And
for
potentially
the Tesla,
higher charging rate.
yeah. For
And
the
a
Tesla
payment.
owner, if you can use it, it has more kilowatts available.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but then, and I think that the absolute main thing is that you can, you know, at the unit you can pay,
Right.
right,
For
as
the
opposed to
non-Tesla
having,
drivers. Yeah.
because otherwise the non-Tesla driver has to download the Tesla app and install an app
Sure.
and put a
Yay!
payment
Another
in
app
the
on your
app.
phone. Yay!
Right. So instead, you can just roll up and tap your credit card, and that will be your payment. That's the.
And I'm
that's the
sure,
main
I am
difference.
sure Tesla's going to make that a premium payment if you're not using the app. You know, to try to push you to the app so they can track all your personal data.
So-
That would be interesting to see if they do that. I think they should also be charging more for non-Teslas, and I'm finding it a little bit expensive as it is. So, I mean, you know, supercharging shouldn't be the only way people charge. People should, you know, hopefully have a situation where they can charge at home or at their destination. So
That's true, but yeah, I mean, we've discussed this before. So I'm paying
Yeah.
24 cents a kilowatt here, non-prime. I can go to the Tesla Supercharger that's a 70 kilowatt unit and pay 17 cents a kilowatt, or I can go to the 250 kilowatt Supercharger and pay 37 cents a kilowatt any time of the day. It's almost cheaper for me to supercharge than it is to charge at home, aside from the
well,
convenience.
it's very location and time of day dependent.
Absolutely.
That's clear.
And it varies almost weekly now. I mean, it's gotten to the point where you really want to check what you're going to get charged when you go because it changes without notice.
You're going to love this.
I
Speaking
mean-
of prices changing
Uh-oh.
quickly
Without
and
notice.
at any point without notice,
Here's our segue.
Tesla Model 3 and Y lease prices are kind of ridiculous now. Like, and ridiculously cheap, in my
Seriously
opinion.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So,
You're still throwing money away.
well, we don't need to get, like, there's a whole debate on
Throwing money.
whether about, you know, somebody should lease or not, because that's a financial decision each person can make.
It is.
Based
It's
on their
individual. You
circumstance.
make your own.
Right.
You make your own choice.
But lease prices are pretty insanely cheap right now for
They
Model
are.
3.
They are.
Which is surprising because of how high interest rates are for loans. Yeah, anyway. So Model 3 lease, as low as $250 a month. That's for
that's
a
bare bones, rear wheel drive, you
Yeah,
know,
no upgrades, no options.
0 upgrades.
And keeping in mind, this is so this is on their website. I don't know if we could. I don't know if we have anything to show for this, but
Yep.
the interesting thing about this was, though this is with $4,500 down, and if you do the math on that, it's like, oh well, you're spending, you know, whatever it is, over, you know, $300-$400 a month. There's over $400 a month on your car payment. If you factor in the down payment with the, you know, splitting it up.
Yep.
But still pretty damn cheap for a brand new car, especially again with interest rates
It's
and things.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, but
I think when
you
I got the BMW i3, and that was just as a stopgap car while I was waiting for my Model 3. You know, that was with all these incentives. It was like about $250 a month, and I thought that was a pretty good price. If I could have leased a Tesla at the time, I would have. But Tesla's lease options at that point were pretty terrible, in terms of like, you know, like I considered, oh, could I lease a Model S? And then your bare bones rear wheel drive Model S was at least $1,000 a month, and I couldn't justify that, given that I drove like maybe 8 miles a week. Like the cost per mile would have been ridiculous for me. You know, that didn't make
No
any
comment.
sense. Even though I got a lot of crap for getting an off-brand vehicle at the time. Yeah, so that $250, you know, if I were buying now, and I didn't already have FSD, locked in on my existing vehicle, I mean, that's what I would do.
But
Because I used to always tell everybody, some years ago, lease an EV because it's basically like your phone. The technology's changing, things are getting better pretty quickly. So, a 2 or 3 year lease makes a lot of sense. Except I wouldn't give that advice for people getting Teslas because the lease terms are just so terrible. But
but
right now, I'd probably tell somebody to lease a Model
oh,
S.
you still can't buy it back at the end of the lease,
Yeah.
which is a real pain. I mean, people get really attached to their Tesla and then they find out kind of late in the game, oh, I can't buy the car. Oh,
I
yeah.
don't understand why they still have that. It made a little bit of sense. There's certainly a lot of hubris when they announced that. I don't know, at least a few years ago now. It's been at least 2 or 3 years that
Yeah,
they said, well, we won't allow you to keep them because these are going to be robo taxis and they're more valuable to us. So
right.
we're not
Now they
going to
go to the
sell
auction
them.
house like the day after you turn it in.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So why not give the option of the person that owns it to get it? There should just be a buyback and buy. I mean, they're getting them and they're selling them. Why not sell them to the person that had it? Because that's the person that wants to keep it. Doesn't make any sense.
There's also the challenges. There was a very interesting thread on TMC. It was titled "End of Lease Inspection, Repair, and Payment," and one of our members, Y2K20, was returning a Model Y or getting ready to return a Model Y, and had some questions. And it was things about, my tires are slightly worn and Tesla's telling me I have to replace the tires, and, can I just go to Discount Tires and buy them, and, blah, 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 curb rash, when I turned in my last lease, the salespeople really didn't even look at the car. They just glanced in the parking lot to make sure it was there, said, yep, good, see ya, have a nice day. But Tesla really seems to get kind of picky about their lease returns. The curb rash is unacceptable. Tire wear is unacceptable. You can't replace the tire with a non-brand matching the rest of the tires. So they all four have to match.
Okay,
Really
I think
weird
the tire
things like
wear
that.
part is specifically wear and tear is included and expected. So
Not according
That's why
to
there's a
Tesla.
mileage. That's why there's a mileage limit.
yeah, so
Right?
the
That they're
tire
part
wear
of it.
one doesn't make any sense. Again, when I had that i3, that was a lease, and when I returned it, they looked at it a little bit, and then that was kind of it. I had some tire rash, which I pointed out to them, and that was just like a little.
You actually volunteered it to them?
Well, I didn't want it to come up later, and then someone rear-ended me and the i3, and so there's that damage too, and I think they just charged me. I forget what it was. It might have been like $400 or something. And it wasn't bad. I mean, I got insurance. The other person's insurance paid for it. And I think they just gave me like $1,500 or something. And I found out that I could just leave it and it would cost me less than I got from the insurance. So I just kept the insurance money, obviously, right? So it was a pretty painless, operation to just sort of return that lease. So I don't know why Tesla would make it so difficult.
Oh, Tesla's painless if you have deep pockets and are going to pay. But if you want,
that's what pain is. In this, in the context of this conversation, pain is money. Okay.
but these are all things to consider. If you're considering the lease, you really need to remember the entire process, not just the fact you get the car cheap up front. That there'll be some work on the back end, and you need to be aware of that and make allowances for that.
I mean, even when you just look at the info that they have here on the site, they already talk about like there's some fee when
there's
you turn
fees.
it in.
Oh yeah.
Like here's another,
$395 disposition fee. What the hell is that?
So they're already adding fees on top of fees when
Ridiculous.
you return the thing. And
Well, if you're going to charge me to return it, I'm just going to keep it. Right?
You can't do.
You can't keep it because it's a special robo-taxi now.
That's right.
Goodness.
Oh man.
Yeah, they're pretty clear. You forego the option to buy your car at the end of the lease and must return it Period.
Yeah, they need to just change that. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it's kind of messy.
That's just more work on their end. It just doesn't make any sense.
But if you ignore all of the fees and hidden costs and all the other stuff, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Well, it does seem like a pretty, compared to what they've offered in the past, it's definitely a good deal. And I don't know how long that's going to last. I mean, what's the motivation? The Project Highland car is probably coming soon, and they probably want good delivery numbers before the end of the year, obviously. Who knows how long that offer will last? They're also, advertising that the federal tax rebate may change, after December 31st. So they're making a big push in terms of what they're offering in education to try to sell as many cars as they can before the end of the year. So this may be just part of that. So it might not be forever. I mean, in general, the prices have gotten cheaper, not even looking at this lease. So,
my car is $40,000 less now than it was when I bought it.
Yeah.
$40,000.
But it's an appreciating asset, you see.
Yeah, right.
No. Not my car. If I bought a new one right now.
So
my car is another $40,000.
Yeah. So by comparison, guys, you can lease a Mach-E right now, premium rear wheel drive, for 3 years. It'll cost you $5,800 cash at signing, and it'll be a payment of $679 a month. And you get the joys of dealing with CCS charging.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
if I've learned one thing from this show, Mike, is I don't want to deal with non-Tesla charging.
You really don't. You really don't. Unless you got the patience of Job. And even then,
if Tesla would allow that FSD license to be attached to me and not the vehicle, I would totally, even with the wrap and stuff, I would, I've had this car long enough that I would, and there are enough sort of newer bells and whistles that I would consider selling this car and doing a lease, doing a Model 3 lease. I would find that reasonable.
Well, you could do a 2-year Model 3 lease and then pick up a Highland at 2 years once they've got some of the bugs worked out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Except that I've already paid for FSD, and
there you go, whining about FSD payments again. Yeah.
Well, whose fault is that, Doug?
I'm just saying.
See, in my case, I could do that, and I subscribe, so I just cancel my subscription for a month, get the new car, re-enable it, and call it a day.
That's what they want all of us to do.
That's exactly what they want us to do.
Yeah. That lease payment looks less attractive when you basically double it for.
It's true. And you got premium connectivity. You've got FSD. It's like, ooh, it goes up.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
all the subscription fees,
Tesla subscriptions and things you might have to pay for, Tesla has now officially announced an API.
Yay!
So an API for those
official
that are
official
API. So API is application programming interface, which basically just means it is a mechanism or a thing that allows software to talk with your Tesla and get information about your car. So all those third-party apps that you use, if you use any of them, like
which I
Tesla
do.
Mate and Teslafy and Tesla,
I've got it on my watch. I've got it on my phone. Yeah,
they basically have worked by reverse engineering the program interfaces that Tesla has for their own internal Tesla stuff. And Tesla's kind of cracking down on that now. They've now officially released an API that they want everyone to move over to.
And all apps have to use it.
And all apps have to use it. Now, there's some advantages. Some advantages to this are security is going to be better. So basically how Tesla integrates, or how these third-party apps integrate to Tesla with your car, there's less risk of those companies like basically stealing your Tesla credentials or other types of things, because it's going through a more robust authorization mechanism. So that's better. But the fear for those that aren't aware is that Tesla's going to start charging for this, because if you haven't heard,
Like the
Elon
Twitter
bought
API
Twitter
charges.
and changed
Yeah.
it to X. And one of the big dramas with that is they charge a crap load of money for API access, which is what allows all those third-party apps and things to work on Twitter. Reddit has done something
Oh
similar.
yeah,
There's
I
drama
was
on that as well. They
yeah.
kind of copied what Elon did to some degree. But anyway, so now that there's an official API, the expectation is Tesla basically has a special mode which is free with a very low query rate. So, like
Hmm.
somebody experimenting or developer testing something out. And we're expecting them to hit us with fees and prices for accessing the APIs, for having an app that accesses many cars. It's very likely third party apps or prices are going to go up, or there's going to be some kind of thing where you have to pay a subscription to Tesla and then use that key that you give to the app or something. I don't know. However, they figure out how they want to monetize it, we will likely be paying money to have our third party apps. So
Wow. What a
yeah,
double-edged sword. I
yeah,
mean, this is something that Tesla should have done a long time ago.
should have done forever ago.
Um, and I feel like they didn't because they feel like what they're doing is the best, and they don't
Same
really
old
care about
story.
other people messing around. But of course, this whole connectivity with the car though was invented by Tesla fans, really, because the Roadster had no connectivity at all, right? And a couple guys on TMC developed this thing called OVMS. To be able to communicate with the Tesla Roadster to be able to like start and stop charging. And it was basically a thing that plugged into the CAN bus and had its own cellular connection. It was a little like mini computer that you could talk to through, and it had its own phone number. I think the first versions you actually kind of texted it, kind of like early Twitter was all text based. And then later, it ended up, when 3G became a thing, it ended up having its own sort of internet connection, and and they've expanded that to work with other EVs. And there are two ones. There's OVMS. There's another guy that did this thing called Tesla Tatler, and it was a similar kind of idea. And he ended up getting hired by Tesla, and so yeah, so they developed essentially, talking to the car and communicating with it and trying to make all the different things accessible through the app. But there are other things people would like, that Tesla wasn't doing yet, like in terms of like scheduling, charging, and that sort of stuff. I mean, that has eventually come to the apps, but these other third-party apps had those kind of features first. And at some point, I remember some months ago, it looked like Tesla was blocking access from AWS, DigitalOcean, basically these large sort of cloud
Cloud.
computing services where people might host an instance of, I'm not sure which one is Tesla. I forget that there's so many different ones, but some you can, instead of giving your credentials to somebody, you can set up your own instance on like a
I think that's Tesla Mate or something like
yeah,
that.
Tesla Made is an
It's
example
the
of one
open
where
source one.
there's
Yeah.
a Docker you can basically just install on your own, and then you're directly connecting to that, and then that is talking to your car and recording data, giving you nice graphs of how the car is charging or how many events happen or whatever. What's really nice about those apps is that you can have a nice long history about how your car is behaving or what's the temperature of your car and how much parasitic loss is there. For example, my car is currently plugged in and the Sentry mode is on, and that's using quite a bit. And so those kind of things are what's useful that these third-party apps are able to do. And at some point, it seemed like Tesla was shutting them out for a bit by limiting the access because no one's phone is connecting through AWS, right, to talk to the car. So yeah, having API that definitely is better. Like, I wouldn't want to give my username and password to any of these companies necessarily because you're really trusting them because they could do anything. They could, stop your car or go steal your car, right? They could unlock your car with that information. Um, so having an API where you can where I can access to it and see which apps have access to my, and maybe if it's smart, you could like maybe have detailed permissions in terms of what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they'll probably start charging for it. Yeah, which
Most
is a little
likely.
bit of a shame. I mean,
Yeah.
I certainly appreciate if there's a high connection rate, and it certainly costs them some money just for the server stuff. But um, I would hate for it to stifle the innovation.
Right. Yep. So time will tell. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Like again, I use a third party app. Every drive I've ever done with my car, all the battery usage, every charge, all of that. Since I first picked it up, I had it set up right away. So
Okay.
been
Which app do
recording
you
all
use?
that data. I'm currently using Teslafy at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna set up TeslaMate myself and run it on a server, and then I was like, or I could just pay money and do nothing. And
Yeah.
I'm super busy with work and my own company, and so I was just like, I don't have
Yeah.
time for this. So I
So
just pay the money.
I've got 3. I've got Tesla Watch because I use my watch to unlock the car and start it. I've got Stats, and then I've got Teslab are the 3 I use.
So all three are hosted by somebody else.
Yes.
So all three of those companies have your credentials and they know
Yep.
exactly where your car is and
They
could
know
come
exactly
steal
where I am.
it. And they could come steal it and change your Tesla password, right?
In
Could
theory.
they change your Tesla password? Is there some sort of next
Mm,
factor on that?
well, the fact they don't have my MFA account.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
So
linked to your email
yeah,
though, so I don't think
so
they.
they
Well,
do have
it's linked to
multi-factor.
email, but without that PIN, you're not going to be able to do much.
Okay. All right. At least that's something.
It's the bare minimum nowadays.
Uh-huh.
Except
So
he used the same password for his Tesla and for his email.
yeah, that's really secure.
There you
So
go.
has this
All
change
6
happened
email accounts.
already? Did you have to reauthorize anything on these
Not yet.
apps at all?
No.
Okay, so
I
nothing.
did. I had
Oh, you
to.
did?
I'm
Yeah, I
pretty sure I
didn't.
had to do a thing recently. They messaged me about it or something, and I had to click through some stuff. I think I
Yeah.
could be misremembering
Oh,
because I do a
actually,
lot of this. But
there's 4 apps, but I hesitate to bring up the 4th app because Doug will have a little.
Let's hear it.
He'll, sexy buttons, of course.
Oh, your sexy buttons. No. I think that's even though you're being paid by them, and
Oh, I
I
wish.
think that's it. That's I like it. I mean, I like it in that
They
it's
just
something that's adding
added
functionality.
a cloud function, so they have to use your Tesla app, credentials to offer their features
Mhm.
now.
Where are they?
So
Sexy Buttons? Is that some Chinese company or?
probably no. Who knows? It's hard to tell. They could have a U.S. address and you'd never know it.
Hmm. I mean, I noticed that they had more things like kind of a knob, and they also had like some stalks.
I just saw the knob. I just saw that.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of pricey, but it allows you to adjust your air conditioning through an analog device now instead of having to drill down 3 menu items.
Hmm.
There's some appeal to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need it, but I can see it.
I've got passengers a lot, and we have this constant struggle about the AC and who's going to turn what, when, and how.
Hmm.
And
But you can
what's really
obviously
tough is the
you can
passenger is
adjust the
trying to work
temperature
the
pretty
screen
easily.
as the car's bouncing at high G's.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
oh man, alrighty. Well, that's our topics for this week. Or again, reminder: our next show, Dan O'Dowd, noted
That's
Tesla
right.
critic, FSD critic, did the New York Times ads, did the Super Bowl ads, lots of news and press coverage.
Guaranteed to be exciting.
It's so as
Yeah,
long
I'm
as
really.
things go through, we'll be be an interesting
It,
conversation. So
one thing
again,
to
if
say
you
about
have any
that
thoughts or
guy.
things you want us to ask him, please post it on TMC. We'll have it a thread available for that for the show.
One thing to say about that guy is he's definitely very motivated. So I'm mostly curious, why is he so motivated? Why does he invest so much time into what he does?
It's his hobby.
I
Or
mean,
it could be a financial interest,
It could be short seller.
my understanding is, and I mean, I guess we can find out more. We can certainly ask him some questions. We'll see what he answers. But my understanding is, he owns a software company that does a lot of government contract work with autonomy. I think maybe drone related. I'm not sure, but like he does do government contract work supposedly in that type of software. And so I think he's just, I don't know if he's just hypercritical for financial reasons, although I think it might also just be like personal, right? Like he just has a personal agenda of disagreeing with Elon and the methodology and wanting to put a stop to it. So I'm not sure that it's like, oh, he's trying to make a buck. Like, you know, he's very rich. He doesn't need to do this to make money. I think he's just I think for some reason he just doesn't agree with it. So, but yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Cool.
so that'll be an interesting conversation. But that'll be for next time. So until then, I want to thank everyone for your support. As always, thanks for your questions and comments and hanging out with us. You can go to TeslaMotorsClub.com and become a supporting member. There's the marketplace. Go there, post things, buy things, do all that fun stuff. As Doug showcased earlier. Thanks to there it is.
There you go.
Thanks to Danny and Adam behind the scenes helping us out in making the show and everything possible. And yeah, like, subscribe, yada yada, do all those fun things. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Peace.